This is Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is the Expecting Ariels podcast, now with the Digitant Network. How's it going, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we get started, lots of stuff going on Wrap Your Head Around Silks. We have Roll It Out, virtual 60-minute live ball rolling class, foam rollers, every Monday and Thursday. I would love to see you on Zoom there. I offer teacher training courses, free mini course if you want to just get used to my style, a beginner intermediate silks course that really is foundational, and it has all the 101s and aero rehab. So also I have a blog if you want to get that. There's a link in the show notes. All right, my friends, today we have Tristabel Akila. This is an incredible story. I actually met her many years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And since then, she has had an elective double mastectomy, preventative. Her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 41. And ever since she was a teen, she's been getting, mammograms and MRIs, etc. And, she weighed her risk level and decided to go for it. So she tells us the whole story. It's riveting. I can't wait for you guys to meet her. Let's get started. So Trista, we met about 10 years ago, and a lot in your life has changed. So much. Can you give us like a 10,000 foot overview?
A 10,000 foot overview.
And then we'll get detailed after that.
So I started pole dancing about 14 years ago, and about 10 years ago, everything started going pretty sideways. I started working my way up, like in the competition series, competing pro, elite, performing in big productions like Girl Next Door. And then, then I had a double mastectomy, and people don't really talk about that a whole lot in the pole community and how that's going to affect pole or aerial. And so I was kind of navigating that by myself, because I knew I wanted to keep doing everything. So I worked through that. It took a long time, but I bounced back better than ever. And then I tore a rotator cuff. And so I had to have surgery to fix that. And almost 2 years to the day after that surgery, I had my second rotator cuff surgery on my other arm. And I spent the last couple of years, recovering from that and retraining from that. And here we are. Like my pole life, my training life looks very different than what it used to, but it still exists, and it still makes me happy.
Oh my God, that was really 10,000 feet.
Yeah, like that was a broad overview there for you.
The reason why you got the double mastectomy, was it preventative?
It was preventative. My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 41, which is younger than I currently am now. I'm 42 now. And I started having mammograms done at the age of 23. And I was terrified to tell my family that my doctor was sending me for one because they found a lump when I went in for my annual physical. And because of my mom, they wanted to check everything. Because at that time, it was kind of unheard of for somebody to be 41 and get breast cancer with no family history. So I've been getting mammograms since the age of 23 that are always immediately followed up with an ultrasound because the mammogram isn't clear. So they do an ultrasound to check borders of whatever it is that they're looking at to see if I'm safe or not. And I'm always sent away and told everything's fine. At the age of 30, they started adding breast MRIs into my regimen every other year because the mammograms were not showing them anything. My tissue was too dense. They couldn't see anything. And the ultrasounds were only giving them limited information. So they said, okay, MRIs. So I had my first one. 2 years later, I had my second one, and there were notable changes that were not detected on mammogram. And they couldn't really tell much with the ultrasound. So I had my first biopsy, and I was 32, 33, right around in there. And it should have been a quick, easy procedure with just some local anesthetic. But due to the density of my breast tissue, it took 3 hours for them to get a sample from this particular mass that they were looking at. It came back totally fine, nothing to worry about. But the guy I was dating at the time had recently lost his mother to breast cancer. And my mom, for the longest time, was the only survivor I ever knew. So I've done the genetic testing. I have none of the genetics, but my risk was still so high, even with negative genetics, that my insurance company was willing to pay for me to have them preventatively gone. So I was just like, where do I sign? Because I don't want to spend the next 6 months of my life going in for breast checks, having MRIs every other year, having mammograms every year, always followed by ultrasounds. Like I just felt like a ticking time bomb. You know, they say 1 out of 8 women will get breast cancer with no family history. That's the stat. My family history gave me a 1 in 3 chance of developing it. And when I did the genetic testing and everything came back negative, my risk went from 1 in 3 chance of getting it to 1 in, it decreased my chance of getting it by like 0.33%. So it didn't even touch it. And I was like, this is dumb. Like, I don't want to live my life like this. And at the time, you know, like the guy I was dating, we were talking about maybe getting married, having kids. And I'm sitting here also grappling with this, going, well, if I get sick and get cancer, I can't breastfeed. Like if you get sick and go through chemo before you've had kids, you have to go through the treatments for fertilization to store your eggs and do all of that stuff and do in vitro. And I'm just like, but if I get rid of them now and don't have to go through treatment, the only thing I won't be able to do is breastfeed. So it just made sense to me. So I was just like, let's just get rid of them. They got to go. And my goal was to have them gone before I turned 37, because that was 5 years prior to my mom's diagnosis at her age. So the closer you get in age to a parent's diagnosis of breast cancer, the higher your risk jumps up, is my understanding of that. So I had them removed at the end of 2016, December 28th, 2016. I had my double mastectomy, and I got sent home a couple of days later, spent a few weeks on a couch recovering because I couldn't lay down because I couldn't get back up. But yeah, Pole prepared me for the recovery from that in the weirdest way possible, like the most unexpected way possible, because they don't want you lifting your arms at all for weeks following that surgery. Weeks. 2 weeks post-surgery, I had both arms straight up above my head with no issues because of pole dancing, because of all of the body awareness that I learned from pole dancing and how a good stretch in a muscle feels versus a bad stretch, like when your body's sending like actual warning signals to you versus like, this is scary and new, stop it. So I was able to work through everything post-surgery and really had very little complications and a very, very fast recovery. It was mind-boggling, really.
Wow. Okay, this story is blowing my mind. So they don't want you to lift your arms, or they don't want you to lift your arms in a way that might hurt your musculature.
They want everything still. They don't want anything moving because they've just removed all of this tissue, and they did place tissue expanders during my mastectomy because, my blood flow was fine. The tissue was healthy enough that, they weren't worried about skin dying if they did that or anything. So they dissected my pec muscles and put these inflatable implants underneath my pec muscles to get my skin and my pec muscles ready to support implants when the final surgery was done. So that's why they don't want anything moving. They don't want any stitches tearing. They don't want incisions coming open. They don't want you, overworking these delicate muscles that they've just dissected and then put stuff in between the layers. And they want you just holding very still. And I've been known to not be a compliant patient. So there's that.
Almost all of us. So you did get a reconstruction.
Yes, I did. 8 months later, I had my final surgery where they took inflatable implants out and placed gummy bear implants. That surgery was easy. That surgery was no big deal in comparison to
Gummy bear is like a
Yes,
silicone?
it's a cohesive silicone. So if anything happens to it and it ruptures, I'm not going to be leaking silicone into my body. It stays put together like if you bite the head off a gummy bear.
So this is a new
It's
technology
newer.
to
Yeah, it's newer.
newer because there are so many people who are having silicone
Yes,
leaking
and all the things that
problems.
that can do to your body that are bad. Yeah. But saline is heavier and less comfortable. So, yeah. And when I was talking to them and I was showing my breast surgeon and my reconstruction surgeon videos of me pole dancing going, this is what I love to do. I need to be able to do this after this is all said and done. And they're just like, huh, okay, this is different. And I flat out told them, I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping. This has helped my mental health so much. I can't quit. And so it was a very interesting progression through all the surgeries. And when I was talking to the reconstruction surgeon and I was telling him, like, I don't want to look like I've had a mastectomy and a reconstruction. I want to look normal. And he goes, oh, and he goes, well, with everything that you're doing and with how you want the aesthetics to be, he's like, I recommend this type of implant, a textured gummy bear implant in the shape of a teardrop. One, because the texture will help it stay in place under your muscle while you're activating all of these muscles and doing all this stuff. So it doesn't flip over as easy or move. Right? Like, right?
Look at my face.
I know. And I'm just like, what? They can flip around. So that's why he recommended this particular type of implant for me. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like he knows better than I do. He does this all day. Um, I've had no problems with my implants. I've never had one flip. I haven't had one move to a new location, which can happen. Excuse me, it can happen. But about a year after my final reconstruction surgery, I got a letter in the mail from the maker of my implants that they were being recalled because something with the textures on the surface is directly linked to causing a type of cancer.
Oh my God.
I know, right? I know. You go through all of this to prevent like a cancer that you're probably going to get, only to find out that what they put in you, because of the type it is, causes a different kind of cancer. And I'm just like, of course it does. Of course it does. Because why not? Of course.
So when a breast implant company recalls their product, there's some product that's sitting on a shelf still, and the rest of it is in people's bodies. So are they paying for surgeries?
Yes. The only thing that people were paying to replace was the actual implant. They were not paying for anything else related to having to have them switched out.
Oh man, no.
I know, right? I have not had mine switched. I still have the textured gummy bear implants because for a lot of reasons. I was reading some information on the type of cancer that this texture causes, and it has something to do with fluid that sits in like the low points of the implant where the texture is not present. And some type of fluid collects there, and that is what eventually causes the cancer. And they have found that people were more likely to get or develop this type of cancer if they had messed with these implants and taken them out or gotten new ones put in or taken them out and switched to a different kind. There was a higher prevalence of this cancer occurring. So I was just like, oh, so I could get it with them in, slightly higher chance I'll get it if I take them out. In addition to the fact that I was just so tired of having my body messed with.
Of course.
And I was having like physical reactions to the stress of having my body messed with that I was done with all of the surgeries, all of the procedures, all of it. I was just over all of it. Like I never even went back and told him that I didn't want to do the final steps of reconstruction because I was just done. So I stopped my reconstruction at a certain point. And I was like, no, I'm good with this all the way it is. So the thing I'm missing is nipples. I don't have any nipples. And I'm proud with that because I can't get disqualified at a pole competition if my top falls off. See, pros and cons, pros and cons.
But the skin, the nipples are cut off during the reconstruction. Like everything is.
Yes, I did what is called a skin sparing mastectomy. So they saved as much of the skin on my chest as they could, but the nipple section is gone. So they drew on me the night before the surgery. They drew around my nipple in such a way, they drew a line across the top in an arch and across the bottom in an arch, so that if you were looking at it, it looked like an eyeball, right? So my nipple was the pupil, my areola was the iris, and then the outlines that they drew were like my eyelids. That's the shape it was. And that was where they made the incisions, so that when they go to tuck me all back together and sew me back, it's just a seamless, straight little line where there's a tiny little scar now. So I don't have like bunched up skin or a pucker or anything like that. It's just a nice little straight line.
Okay. Also, I've been doing this for like 4 years. And this is like, I've never had a story like this.
See, and that right there is why I decided to open my mouth and start talking about it and start posting pictures of what my chest looks like. And I even put a video up of my very first fill when they put the inflatable expanders in. You have to go in every week and they add a little bit of fluid to them. My own mother went through this, and I had no idea what this process was like, what these procedures were like. I didn't know the order of the steps. And I was 17 years old when my mom was sick. It wasn't like I was a little kid and just don't remember. I wasn't told or shown, or I didn't have things explained to me because they were trying to keep our lives normal, even though we knew she was sick. So my own mother went through this and I had no clue. And I was just like terrified. I was absolutely terrified of every surgery. I was terrified of what the fills were going to be like because I didn't know what was going to happen. So I recorded my very first fill and I put it on YouTube. I put it on Facebook. I put it on Instagram. I put it on TikTok. I put it everywhere. Just so that other women who were going through this could see it, for one. And two, also so that other aerialists and pole dancers, gymnasts could also see it and start to understand the process, and then maybe start to understand how it might affect them training when they go back to what they love to do. Because there was nothing, there was no information out there. So I started putting it out there.
I love this. And then how long total from the mastectomy to the end of what you decided you were finished with the reconstruction?
That was it was 8 months. So I had my double mastectomy with the placement of they're called tissue expanders or muscle expanders. So I had my mastectomy with my tissue expanders placed at the same time on December 28th of 2016. I started doing the weekly fills about 2 or 3 weeks later. I had drains in, so they had to allot time for healing and for the swelling. And then they took the drains out, which I'm sad I didn't get a video of that. It was really interesting. It didn't hurt. It was very fast. It was weird and interesting, but it was not painful. And then after they did that and they let the little incisions from where they had the drains sewn in, then they started doing the fills. So I'd go in every week and they would put in 60 cc's of fluid. And because of pole dancing and getting more flexible and learning how to stretch my muscles, those fills are a very, very targeted pectoral muscle stretch, which that's a hard muscle to target when you're stretching. They targeted it because they had a balloon underneath it and they blew that balloon up. So because I understood what a targeted stretch to increase flexibility felt like, my brain was not freaking out and getting those muscles to contract and tense. So it didn't really hurt. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm stretching my pec now. Finally, something that's stretching that because of how hard it is to target that muscle. And I would walk out of there and I would just walk out and drive myself home. Like it did not.
Other people did not have that experience, I'm
Right.
sure.
As a dental hygienist, I have a lot of women who come in, and when I'm asking them about current health changes, they're like, "Oh, I got breast cancer. I've had surgery. I'm doing my fills now." And, I would talk to them about this long before I ever went through this. And I'd be like, "Oh, I remember my mom had to do fills. How was it?" And they all said, "I had to stop doing it. I'm not the size that I want to be because it hurt so bad." I'm like, "It hurt." And they go, "Well, yeah, they're pulling all these muscles apart." And I'm like, "I never thought of that." So then when it was my turn, I was so nervous about how bad it was going to hurt, because that's all I'd ever heard is how bad it hurts. It didn't hurt me. It actually felt kind of nice to be able to stretch that muscle, even though I wasn't intentionally doing it, it was intentionally being done to me. And because my brain was calm, I was like, "Oh yeah, we're stretching. This is no big deal." Then the fill was no big deal. So I was able to get back to my original breast size with no problems. So yeah, because that's what I told him. I was like, "I just want to look like me. I don't want to be bigger. I don't want to be smaller. I just want to be me." And I was able to accomplish that because of pole dancing and everything that comes with learning how to pole dance.
So I'm assuming you had like really good boobs beforehand, because if it were me, I would be like, give me better
they were
ones.
great. I'm not gonna lie, they were fantastic. I really miss them sometimes. These implants are harder, like
Oh,
don't really
okay.
move. Like
Yeah.
I could put on a sports bra, and I had if anybody's curious, somebody out there is gonna be curious. I was 32F. That was my bra size, which I'm a smaller
Whoa.
framed person. So, like a 32F on me is not the same as like a 40F on somebody else. Those are very different sizes. Um, so, but if I were to put on like a compression sports bra with my natural breasts, like you could not tell that they were larger, because they would compress, they would squish, they would, stay in place. I cannot compress or squish these. So wearing sports bras now, I have to go up a couple of sizes to allow my lungs to continue to expand, because these things are not going to squish or move or go anywhere. So it's just torture if I have to put on something tight. Um, so I did fills every week for 6 or 7 weeks until I got up to the size I wanted to be. And then they let me just sit for a while. And they're like, "Yeah, in a few months, we can do the exchange surgery." And I said, "No, I don't want to do it in a few months. I have all these things going on. I just started, like doing more pull stuff. I want to retrain some stuff. I want to just simmer here for a little bit." So in August of 2017, 8 months later, I had my final exchange surgery, where they took the inflatable implants out and put the textured cancer-causing implants in. And that surgery was so easy. They used the same incision. They took them out. They checked, the muscles and everything, put the new ones in, and closed the incision the same way they closed it the first time, which was just with internal stitches and some surgical glue and stuff. And that was that. A few weeks later, the incisions were healed. And they were like, "Yeah, like be careful, like going about what you do, but like, you should be healed enough that you can start doing things." Now, most women are told when they have implants put in that they need to stop doing any upper body weightlifting or anything like that. Like that's what they're told. And I'm just like, that's not going to happen. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm using my body in its entirety, and I'm not going to stop just because of this. And I've had no issues whatsoever. Sorry, my computer just beeped. So yeah, it was 8 months overall. And the next step of that reconstruction would have been figuring out how to go about reconstructing the areola and the nipple. But I was over all of it. I was tired of being poked by the needles for the fills. I was tired of surgeries. I was tired of like having to sit and not do what I love to do. I just wanted to be done with everything. And to me, in my head, the perks of not having nipples or areola outweighed having them again. Like, one, they were just going to be decorative. Like, oh, look, thumbs up. They were just going to be decorative. They weren't going to be functional. They, keep
Right.
your nipples. They can do a nipple sparing mastectomy, so you can keep your own nipples, but they won't respond to stimulus. You can't breastfeed with them. They're just there. And without them, I can enter a pole competition. And if I have a wardrobe malfunction, I'm not going to be disqualified. I'm not going to have points deducted because I'm not displaying a part of my body that's obscene, right? That's the part that everybody's worried about. I can go just about anywhere I want to topless. And nobody can say anything to me because I'm not breaking any laws.
Oh my God, I didn't know it was all about the nipple.
It's the nipple. I wear see-through shirts on the regular and nobody has any idea because it's just my skin. It's all uniform. They have no
Right. They have no idea. They think that you have like a
cami or like a flesh tone bra on. I have nothing there because
Right.
there's nothing to see. So that has been really fun for me, actually.
Ah, yeah. Well, especially with the style now, like all the celebrities, they're wearing these like dresses that are like sheer, transparent.
Right up my alley. And I don't have to go through any extra steps to try to cover up body parts that are going to get me tossed in jail or put on a list somewhere because I don't have those body parts.
You want to say hi to Tristan?
Hi. How are you, cutie? How was your sausage and your oatmeal?
She wants to know how your breakfast was.
I'm tired.
You're tired? Well, you want to go lay down in your little bed, and then when we're done, I can come and snuggle you, okay?
What a cutie. Oh.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, Trista, this story is amazing. It's amazing.
Well, and I didn't really think much of it until other people started. Oh, I'm sure you'll hear the story. I know you'll hear the story.
I don't know me in the story.
Yeah.
Let her finish,
Yeah,
okay?
I'm still telling it. But yeah, so there's so many like backless shirts are my favorite. Anything backless, I'm gonna wear it because I no longer have to wear bras. Like,
well, and because they don't move, you don't need support either, right?
right. I will occasionally wear a sports bra. But I complain the whole time I do it, even if it's sized up. Like I will still complain about it.
So Trista, did you and that guy work out?
No, we did not. We were together for 7 years. It did not work out. I don't want anything bad for him, even though things did not end well or with clarity at all. But like, he's off doing his own thing. I hope he's getting everything he wanted out of life. I have finally moved my life forward after that, and I'm with somebody else now who's a lot more supportive in more areas of life. So yeah, no, we did not work out, but he was a very good caretaker in the weeks after that mastectomy. And I thought, I lived alone. I was like, oh, I'll just go home after surgery. I'll be able to take care of myself. No, you cannot. You're not able to do that. I did have to have a lot of help from him in those first 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah.
For sure, like people are in your life and out of your life sometimes, and I am now divorced from the man that I was with when I met you.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but still, again, like I broke my leg maybe before or after.
I think it was after, because I don't.
Okay, yeah.
I don't remember you ever talking about like dancing for Taylor Swift or having this injury. I think it happened after. And I had no idea. I don't remember seeing anything about it on any of your socials because I've been following you ever since I met you.
Yeah, so we got divorced, but like he was also taking like that whole time, he was helping me through it, right? So it didn't go well. We're divorced now, and now I'm with my life partner and my baby. So I'm with my baby daddy. We're not necessarily married, but we're basically married, right? But I think so too. It's kind of like, well, if it wasn't for that relationship, that part of my life would have been
different,
way harder and different. Yeah.
Same for me, because he had already spent time taking care of his mother after her surgeries and while she was sick. So he already kind of knew like how to take care of me after that surgery, which was really nice because I didn't know how to take care of me after that surgery. So now when I have patients coming in to see me at the dental clinic, or if I have, pole dancers coming to me saying, hey, I just got a diagnosis, or hey, I just decided to do this as a preventative and somebody like mentioned you and I decided to look you up. And I'm like, yeah, like, here's everything that you need to know that you don't already know. You're going to need your hairdresser to wash your hair every week for the next 6 weeks, because you're not going to be able to wash your hair. You're not going to be able to hold your arms up that long. You're not going to be able to lay down. You're not going to be able to be in a recliner. You're not going to be able to sit up from an already sitting position. Like, you're going to need help with these things, and it's lousy. But if you know these things going in, it makes dealing with it so much easier when you're in it. Yeah. So like, I'm sure if Ariel has come to you and like, I broke my ankle, and you're like, here's some things that helped me during this time that made it a little easier. Maybe it'll help you. I'm sitting here, we're going, look, you're having your boobs cut off. Here's some great tips for you that nobody else is going to tell you, because nobody ever told me, and I had to figure it out. So yeah, there's so much.
Yeah. So listeners, I'm gonna leave Trista's info in the show notes, and you can always reach out if you have questions about mastectomy and a reconstruction. Here's a lighter question. When you start dating a man, when you start dating again, like, when does the conversation about all this come into the conversation?
When I started dating the man I'm with now, we've been together for 3.5 years. I had this conversation with him on our very first date, but that is because I knew already that he is a widower and he lost his wife young to cancer. So as we were conversing in our first date, and I'm just like, we're just talking and things are just flowing so naturally. It's going so well. And finally I was just like, look, I want to talk to you about something that's hard. I'm going to tell you something about me. I said, but first I was just like, I don't want to bring up something that's sad for you. I was like, but what kind of cancer did your wife have? And he's like, oh, I wasn't really planning on getting into this tonight, but okay. And so we started having that conversation. I was like, well, here's why I'm asking. I was like, if this progresses and we decide to continue this relationship and be together, and we decide to be together physically, I just want to warn you that I look different than most women, and here's why. But you should note, I did not have a diagnosis. I was never sick. So I don't want you to worry and think that I could have like a relapse or anything, because there's nothing right now for me to relapse from. And I was like, if that's too weird for you, that's fine. There's no hard feelings. I get it. But I just want to be upfront and clear about me. And he was just like, okay. Like, he starts asking me some questions, and I'm like, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm an open book, because that's what helps people to get through their own lives if they have to deal with this, like, is sharing information. So it was a first date conversation with him, and we have not had a single day since that day 3.5 years ago that we haven't like talked or been together. Like, it's just, this relationship just fits so well. So it's working out really well for me right now.
Yeah. So maybe it was easy to talk about because it was the right person to talk to.
Yeah. And, I also decided that I could also use their reaction to make my own judgments. So if anybody's like, oh my gosh, that's gross or weird, you are not the person for me. I'm not going to deal with somebody thinking that. I know who I am. I know what I'm bringing to the table. I know what I look like. I'm confident and comfortable with what I look like because of all these random perks that come with looking like me. And you're not going to make me feel bad about it. So you go do you, and I'm going to go do me. Like, it's a good way to be like, nah, this is not going to work for me. So I would rather know that information before I'm attached to somebody than it make it easier to just walk away.
I mean, you basically could walk around in like a transparent, like a sheer bra, and people think that you are not in a sheer bra.
I have done a topless performance piece at Michelle Minx's 16th Minx extravaganza. I did an entire pole piece where I took my top off and early on in the piece and performed the rest of it with nothing on. And the piece was about having scars and being strong, and can you see what I look like, and can you see what I've overcome? And I mean, people in the audience were crying. Like, because as soon as I was done with the reconstruction and started training to start competing again, I competed 9 months professionally after my reconstruction surgery. So 9 months later, I was on a pro stage competing. And then shortly after that, I did Michelle Minks because I was like, I need to be topless on stage. Like, there was something in my gut just telling me, like, I need to put this on stage. I need other women to see this and know that this can happen to you, or you can choose this and you can still come out being just as good, if not better than you were, feeling better, doing the things that you love, and still being confident and sexy. Like, this does not have to completely upend your life. Like, you can still be you after doing this or after dealing with this. It's one of my most favorite pieces I've ever done. I haven't had that drive to get on stage topless again, but I have done some other things topless for funsies in the meantime. I spent an entire day in Hawaii on the beach topless. And I was definitely getting some side eye as people walked by, but once people saw the scars, their faces totally changed and nobody said a word to me. Like, the whole day I was swimming in the ocean, I was snorkeling, I was laying on the beach topless the whole day, all because I was wearing a triangle top. And to get the fabric to stay up and not be all wrinkled and schlumpy, I had to tie it pretty tight around my neck. It was hurting my neck. It was really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can imagine like just being topless on a beach is so freeing.
It really was.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend, Dan, was there with me. And before I popped that top off, I just looked at him. I said, look, this is really hurting me. I'm really uncomfortable. I know that we don't want to drive back to this other part of the island so I can get a t-shirt or a different swimsuit. Do you care if I go topless? And he's like, no, you deal with my shenanigans all the time. You do you. And man, within 2 seconds, that top was off. And I'm like, let's go snorkeling. And we just had the best day. And like, it was fine. No, it was great. You can be topless on a beach if you don't have nipples. In America.
In Europe, you can do it no matter what.
I have a lot more freedoms now in America now that I don't have nipples than I did prior. Which,
oh my God.
Yeah. And when I did the Mink show, like, she has rules, of course, for the women. Like, yes, you can be topless, but you have to have pasties on. And because Minx is so into equality, even the guys had to have their nipples covered. I was the only person in the history of the show that got to be on stage topless with no pasties or anything, because I'm not breaking any laws. And that's just why.
So it's something that you wouldn't think about if you weren't in that position.
Right. And it opened up a whole new thing in my mind going, well, wait, if nipples are really what the problem is, then why are all the men out here running around all feral like this? Why?
Feral.
Yeah. I mean, they got their nipples out everywhere all the time. Then it's not a problem. If I have nipples, it's a problem, because it's not the fact that there's breast-shaped stuff. That's not the problem.
Yeah.
So,
apparently.
Yeah, it blew my mind in such an unexpected way that I was like, huh, how bizarre. Like, our thinking is a little bit weird in this country, I think, on this subject. And that's not an opinion I think I would have had previous to having these surgeries done. So
I think that it makes you, I mean, I've never thought about it. Why would I think about it necessarily? Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so glad to reconnect with you. I'm so happy to have this story be a part of this collection. Because I know a lot of women are just, they're searching for answers and stories,
information
that will help them.
And when pole dancers reach out to me, they're terrified that they're never going to be able to pole dance again. And I'm like, no, you will. It's going to be different. It felt so radically different the first time I was back on a pole. Once I'd healed enough after the mastectomy and I had the expanders in and I started training pole again, engaging these pec muscles heavily was the weirdest feeling, because these implant things were in the way. So as my pec muscles were contracting to give me strength, they're trying to squish onto something that was never there before. And that made my brain freak out. So even, doing one climb above to get to a pole sit, like, and keeping this all engaged was such a strange feeling that I was like, no, I want a spotter right here in case something spasms and I let go. I don't know what these muscles are about to do. So having to learn how engaging those muscles felt on top of a foreign body took some time. And it did mess with my head. But once I realized that I could trust those muscles to still support my weight and still do what I was asking them to do, then I didn't need the spotters anymore. And I just, like, my training just skyrocketed, and I was very quickly back to the level I was at before the mastectomy as far as my skill level and what I could do with pole dancing. Which, yeah. And I was completely distraught going into this that I was never going to be able to pole again, or at least not at a high level. And that was absolutely not the case.
Oh my God, this story is amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sharing.
Thanks for asking to talk to me about it. Cause yeah, like it's never occurred to me to put it out there in any other way, but yeah.
Oh, so wonderful. And listeners, please reach out to Trista if you have any questions.
Oh yeah, I will answer anything and everything honestly according to my experience, and I'll give any tips and tricks and just the little minute details that nobody will tell you or even thinks of. I've got them, and I've got videos on things like that too, like what you're going to need immediately after, what you're going to need in the hospital, types of clothing you're going to want to wear, who you're going to want to have and do your hair, what positions you're going to want to sleep in, like so much. It's a big life change, but if you're choosing to do it for prevention, I have never felt better than I did from the moment that I woke up from that mastectomy. I felt free.
Right.
Yeah. Worth it.
All right.
Yeah, worth it every time.
Thank you so much for coming on and telling the story. I know there must be women out there that resonate with your story and might be going through this right now. So her info is in the show notes. Reach out to her if you have any questions, or if you just want to, reach out with a similar story. I know a lot of you guys must be dealing with similar things. So thank you, Trista, for coming on and being vulnerable and sharing your story. We really appreciate you. And my friends, check out Wrap Your Head Around Silks. I'd love to be your virtual teacher. Lots of resources available, and I would love to work with you. All right, guys, please honor me with a 5-star rating and a review anywhere you get your podcasts. If you want to listen to my voice just a little more, Greener Grass Podcast with Kelly McVeigh. We interview some amazing people doing some incredible things. So would love to have you there. But have a great week. Over and out. This is Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around the Silks. This is The Expecting Aerialist.